You are listening to the Unleashed and Aligned podcast, where we strip away the noise, unleash our truth, and align with our highest self. I'm your host, Felicia Dahm, certified life coach, Reiki practitioner, and chakra guide, here to help women find deep love and interconnection within themselves. This podcast is here to increase awareness, inspire your journey, and educate you as you reclaim your energy and rise fully into who you are. Check the show notes for links to my healing circle, coaching, and more ways to work with me. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the Unleashed and Aligned podcast. I am here with Criss Madrigal. She is a former Fortune 500 leader turned life alchemist, 3-time best-selling author, and mentor to high achievers. After spending 20 years in corporate HR, Criss walked away from the system and pivoted into entrepreneurship, where she experienced a full identity deconstruction to return back to her. Diagnosed with an autoimmune condition at 40, she realized her body was signaling what her soul had long known. She was out of alignment. She was living in survival mode. And through deep inner work, Criss healed from within, reprogrammed her mind, reclaimed her power, and redesigned her life with intention. Today, she helps women go from misaligned to magnetic by guiding them back home to themselves. Whether it's releasing guilt, rediscovering her voice, or turning their story into impact, Criss guides women on a journey of remembrance back to the truth of who they are. Her mission? To elevate the consciousness of 1 million women worldwide by 2029. One story, one alignment, one breakthrough at a time. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Felicia. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to connect with your audience, especially on this month that you have allocated to talk about special needs and disability. And actually, I didn't share this with you, but this month is not only my birthday, it's my twin daughter's birthday, who we will talk about because that is my experience that is bringing me so near and dear to this topic. Yay! I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh my gosh, happy birthday. When is the birthday?
My girl's birthday is Sunday, and my birthday's a week from today.
Oh, awesome. Okay, tell them I said happy birthday and I wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you.
So I did go over some of your background, but if you could just fill us in a bit about how you came to doing what you are doing right now, and maybe we can start diving into your children and what kind of diagnosis they have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have to start by saying that I am a woman who is living the most happiest, joyous moment in her life. And I say that because I feel so much peace in my heart, but that did not come with ease. It came from years of struggle, years of identity crisis, I guess you could call it, and just really working on myself, identifying that I had been so misaligned for so long. And once I was able to bring things slowly into alignment, it allowed me to enjoy my life as I do today and now share that, not just with my clients, but with our audience, your audience today, and really with my family. If we take it back, oh my goodness, we've been married, my husband and I, about 17 years, been together over 24 years, and we have a beautiful relationship. We started a beautiful family, and we had 3 kids under 2. We had 3 kids, and we have a son, our oldest, and our identical twin daughters who were born within that 24-month period. And our daughters were diagnosed with a 22q deletion syndrome diagnosis that we'll dive into in a moment. But I think it's the vision that a lot of women have of the family, the marriage, the home, the career. And so everything was just happening so beautifully. in a short period of time. And then motherhood came. And there's no manual for motherhood. And it's a beautiful experience. But when you have three children under the age of two, two of which have a lot of medical needs, it became overwhelming where my life and I know our marriage surrounded around how do we make our children thrive and do well? How do you care for our oldest? How do we give them the same level of attention when two require so much? And I had a full time corporate career in human resources, which that field requires a lot of your energy. And so over time, I didn't know who I was anymore. It's like I looked in the mirror and I did not recognize myself. I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed with life, with everything going on and trying to hold up a career in a family and being the breadwinner in the family and all the things together that it really came down to losing my identity. I lost my identity in motherhood, in advocating for my children and making sure that my family was okay. And it was at that moment when I no longer recognized myself that I had to really pause and seek support. And my support came through coaching and mentoring or mentorship, I should say. And so that opened my eyes so much. And it really helped me in so many ways just to reprogram my mind. I became a coach. When I became a coach and my life started to change and my family's life started to change, that's when I was no longer aligning with my corporate career. My life desired and craved more alignment, more fulfillment. And after 20 years in corporate world, you should say 20 years in human resources, last year I pivoted and walked away from corporate and went full on into entrepreneurship to really just live and experience the life that I desire. And here we are.
Oh my goodness, I absolutely love your story. And when I'm listening to it, I believe that you resonate with so many women. Now, I don't personally have children, but I know a lot of women that do. And I feel like that juggling so many things, a lot of women nowadays are the breadwinners. And so there's, even when you're not and you're a stay-at-home mom, there's like a lot of things that you're juggling that I think from the outside looking in, people don't realize that you're dealing with. And you having all of those things going on, I can see where that really can resonate with the audience, with so many women. And then also, once you dived into this more coaching mindset work and things like that, and having this realization like you're not aligning with the corporate space, I definitely resonate with that. You said 20 years, I was 19 years. And when I started diving into the work, I was like, I gotta get out of here. Like, and I tried to, and maybe this might be something that you've done too, but I tried to build it into my corporate job, and I tried to do all the coaching with my team and the mindset work and things like that, but it just was not the same, and it while that was very rewarding and I love doing it, I was like, I wanna do this all the time, and I wanna do this with the clients that are ready to have these experiences happen for them. I'm so curious as to the 22q deletion syndrome, and if you can tell us what that means and what that was like learning that diagnosis, what that might look like, how you related to that as a parent, and how did that look for you and your husband as a family?
Yeah. So thank you, first of all, for allowing me to share because I love to bring awareness. And 22q deletion syndrome is known as the most common syndrome that nobody knows about, as it follows Down syndrome in commonality.
Okay.
However, it goes undiagnosed for so many because that syndrome can manifest itself in over 180 different ways in the body.
Wow.
And so every person is going to look completely different. And so a lot of people don't even realize they have it until adulthood, until something comes up. We were very fortunate to know about the diagnosis while I was pregnant. So I'm pregnant with twins, and that then turns into a high risk pregnancy with a lot more monitoring. And it was through the ultrasounds and to all those follow up exams that they were able to, one, identify that they only had one kidney or the kidneys were not positioned properly. So that was the first thing. Hey, it could be something, it could be nothing. A lot of people live with one kidney. So that was a very first thing. Then, second ultrasound a month later revealed that they both had congenital heart defects. So now it's not just their kidneys, it's their hearts. And we went for additional second, third opinions, and everything was just confirmed. So then we knew that both girls were going to have to require open heart surgery once they were born.
Oh my gosh.
That then allowed us to go to Stanford Hospital, where they had a lot of experts. And it was there that they suggested we do a specific test during pregnancy for that specific diagnosis. Now, we were very fortunate to land in a hospital that was aware of this. That's the only reason we knew. So everything comes back, it's confirmed. By that time, we're talking about a very emotionally draining, full of anxiety, full of a lot of emotions. It's hard enough to carry twins.
Yeah.
Now you add this diagnosis. Now you add that both of them have it. And it was manifesting itself exactly the same in both girls.
Oh.
We have our children. And at that time, our son wasn't even 2 yet. And we're trying to manage everything. It was a lot of stuff. And they've gone through its congenital heart defects. They both had open heart surgery. It's their kidneys. They have one kidney at this point. The second kidney, the body self absorbed it and it disappeared. Phenomenal things our body does. Their immune system is very compromised at this time. They both have to get infusions every 2 weeks that we administer here at home because their bodies do not produce the antibodies that are required to keep them healthy. So our girls are going to turn 14 on Sunday. And we just learned of the immune deficiency 2 years ago. We're always learning a lot of things. There's every developmental delay you can think of. So there was a lot of stuff that early on in their childhood was very worrisome, exhausting, and it really took a toll on us emotionally. Although I have to say, we have done a really exceptional job at searching for care, looking for answers. It's just within me. I don't take no for an answer. And I'm always searching and searching for the next thing that's going to help them. They've done over 1,000 therapy sessions of all kinds, each of them. And I'm very happy that they're doing so well considering everything. They've beat the odds of children with their diagnosis. So with that, it does come with a lot. And so managing that aspect of it, and as parents, it becomes difficult at times, but I'm so proud of my family. I'm so proud of my husband, of us, because it's been a big sacrifice to carry so much weight. But I know we've done it so beautifully because we look at them and they're doing so well. And I am grateful that at this point in their lives and in our lives, this experience has allowed us to grow as parents and to grow as a family. And we wouldn't be where we are today if we hadn't gone through these experiences in life.
I love that you expressed how much joy you find in how you guys are handling all of the things. And like you said, I couldn't even imagine your body's already going through stress being pregnant and then having all that added stress. And then going through all the things that you were mentioning, the therapies and trying to research, and that takes a lot of time. That's going to be stressful as well. And how you're managing it, because some people could have the same thing happen and completely crumble and not look for hope or not realize like all of the different things that maybe they can help their children with or do. And so I love that. I feel like while it's a challenge and it come with the setbacks and the stresses and all that stuff, but you sound like you are handling it so gracefully and with so much love for your children and your family. And I think that's an incredible thing. That's very amazing. I was going to ask how old your daughters were, and I'm like excited to hear that it sounds like for what all they've gone through, they've been doing really well. I want to know what, I'm sure that there's a ton of things, but what surprised you the most about this journey, if you could think back along your journey?
There's a lot of things, like you said, but the one thing that really stands out for me, and maybe not in the moment, but in retrospect, right? When we got our daughter's diagnosis and we were going through all the challenges, like early on, we're in survival mode the first 10 years of their life. We were always full of hope. I always say I am someone who believes in the impossible and expects miracles. That's how I operate. That's
Mhm.
how we operated with them. And anything that they would tell us, I would research, but only research through the resources that were given to professional resources,
Okay, yeah.
because Google is a scary place. I don't go to Google. If they give me a diagnosis, I research professional sites, only what I'm being given. So I was a great advocate and I still am. Always looking for more, always believing in the impossible. And I just saw beautiful miracles just show up day after day. So I remember a moment when I'd already hit that place of, I don't recognize myself anymore. I start working. I'm contemplating the idea of hiring a coach. And I never invested that kind of money on myself. No questions asked when it came to investing in the health of our children. But for myself, never. And so I remember having the conversation with my husband to tell him, hey, I'm going to make this investment. And I said, we have this vision of our family and what we desire for our family. And we have stayed so connected to that vision. We don't know how it's going to happen. We don't know the process, but things are unfolding beautifully for our children. Now, imagine if we used that same belief on ourselves. Imagine what would happen. We already have proof that believing in the impossible and expecting miracles happens because we're witnessing it day after day. I said, now we're going to take that same belief, but apply it on ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided to hire a coach to now reprogram my mind for myself so that we can begin to evolve. Now, I did that work on me. And I'm not someone that's going to push my beliefs or anything on anyone else. So my husband never questioned anything. He just was like, fine, if that's what you want, that's what you want. As I started growing, as I started changing, as I started reprogramming my mind, it's an automatic trickle effect in your family, both positive and negative. Because I was already on that negative loop. As a mom, you carry a lot of weight in the household. If I was grumpy, I would for sure make everybody else grumpy just in how I showed up in my energy. As I was calming my nervous system, as I was reprogramming my mind, I was calming myself. But in return, it's having that impact on my family. So it did reach a point where my husband's like, all right, I want to do this work too.
Yeah.
Once he started to do that inner work for himself, it opened up, oh my gosh, I can't even put into words what it did to our family, but it created this beautiful harmony where we're now having these super deep conversations, how to reprogram ourselves, how to just quantum leaps in ourselves, in our inner growth. It compounded when the two of us were doing the work. And now having the ability to share that with our children, to now teach my girls, hey, how can you heal yourself? How can we apply everything? And you can start healing your body. And so many different things that as a couple, we're now able to pass down to our family. And that came after us sitting down and saying, look, we know how to do this. We've been applying it in one area of our life. Now let's take that and apply it in our life. And when we did, beautiful things started to happen. but it's a work in progress, right? I always say we're never going to stop learning. And as we evolve, we're going to continue to grow and expand. And it's a never ending process, but a
Yeah.
beautiful.
That is so amazing because I think a lot of times one of the I hear a lot of the wife doing it or maybe the husband doing it, but both of you combined, I just think that's so wonderful and how you even expressed how it really changed the whole dynamic. And you're right, your energy affects the family, whether it's his energy or your energy, when you come in with sad or anger or whatever, it does come out. And even when you're trying not to show it, it comes out in how your actions are, what you're saying, the tone of your voice, and all of that. So to have both of you really working on the mindset piece and then implementing heal within. I absolutely love that because I'm an energy worker. I love that kind of stuff. I think that that's so beautiful. I want to know a little bit about the dynamic with, so your son, does he have anything in compromise? No. So
No.
how is the dynamic with the daughters? Like how did that look at a young age and how does that look now?
So our son is just such an incredible boy. He was always very supportive. He was never the jealous type. I always tell him he was an inspiration to them because the girls wanted to do what he was doing. And he was so innocent, right? He was like not even 2 when they were born. So he served as inspiration to them. Now, and they've had a great relationship. Now, the girls are girls and they're just like bicker and fight. And he's just chill out, girls. You're just get along. But he's so calm and he's got this great big heart. And he's just always been super supportive of them, of us. Now, I'm going to tell you something that is more of something that I dealt with, which was a lot of guilt. And over time, it's like inevitably the girls would take more time because of the number of appointments, of therapy, of either not being able to take him, of leaving him with the grandparents for appointments. And I remember one time I was sitting down and I was reading the book, The Highly Sensitive Child. It was during COVID. Things shut down. And now I'm left to me, myself, and I because therapist and everybody shut down. I was reading that book and then he just comes skipping around and he was like, "Oh, I'm a sensitive child." And I said, "Oh, you are?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then he just skips right off. Then when I was tucking him into bed, I asked him, "Oh, what did you mean by that?" And the conversation unfolded and he made a comment to me that just hit me at my core. And he said, I'm not going to remember the exact words, but it was like, "Why is it that you always notice everyone else, but you don't notice me?"
Oh,
So that hit, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. And it took me years to be able to like talk about it and not feel like it still gets me.
yeah.
But I carried that guilt and all that for so long. And even though he doesn't remember that conversation, he doesn't remember that thing, all the different times that we had to spend more with the girls than with him and stuff. He says he doesn't remember, but it took a lot of me. And it was earlier this year. So years later, I finally sat down and had a conversation with him. He's going to be 16 at this point. He understands things now better than before. And I had a conversation with him and I said, "Look, I just want to apologize if I ever made you feel invisible. You said this to me that I know you don't remember, but I've carried it with me for a really long time. And I just want to apologize because, mom and dad were doing the best they could with what we knew. We were scared. We were scared for your sisters. We were scared for things. We were just nervous, a lot of things going on. And maybe that ended up in we were paying more attention to them during certain times because we were so scared. And nobody tells us how to be parents. So we were doing the best we could. And he just listened and he's so sweet. And I said, "So I just want to apologize." He's like, "Mom, like, I've never felt that way." And I said, "Maybe you don't remember." I said, "But sometimes our mind has a way of blocking certain memories because they hurt so much." I'm here to say that things are different now. and we're in a different space together as a family. And I just really want to apologize. And so I hugged him. And at that point, I did start crying. And I was like, "Ah," so much, but it felt so good to have
Yeah.
that conversation with him. And honestly, to just release it and let go. Because if you're into energy work, right, and all that, you know that guilt and shame is the lowest vibrational frequency that exists out there. So while I'm trying to be at a higher frequency and show up for other things, inevitably, if there's any bit of that still in my body, I'm gonna know it's gonna bring it down.
Yep.
So it was so beautiful to just have that conversation, let that go, and really just let him know that I'm sorry if you ever felt those things, even though you don't remember. They're probably still stored somewhere in your body, but let's make that better moving forward. So that was just, oh my gosh, deep and beautiful, and I know it elevated our energy and our frequency together.
Oh my gosh, I love that story, and I think it's true, and I can definitely see that with children that have special needs and then one that doesn't. But I think that can happen within families just with you said you have 3 children, and for people that have multiple children, I think that there can be, especially with sometimes the younger ones are getting more attention because the older ones can be self-sufficient and take care of themselves. And so like, people tend to neglect them a little bit because there's a little baby running around. We have to watch that baby. And so I think that can happen. And I think that guilt that you're describing, people can resonate with that in if they have multiple children as well. But I could just imagine having several with special needs and it being even more because like you said, you have all these appointments to go to. If something happens and they're reacting in a certain way, it's going to draw more attention in that way as well. I think that's really beautiful that you had that conversation and just work to release and heal, and whether your child acknowledges it right now, but there, like you said, I think we do hang on to those things. And so it's one way to start that healing within them and their energy as well. It's so beautiful. So you said that earlier that your children, your daughters, their special needs is not something that somebody can actually like physically see. Does it have an impact on how they go to school, how their friends treat them, how other people treat them, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So for them, it's more of invisible disabilities. Now, I just say invisible because when you see them, you would just think they're a little bit more quiet, a little bit more shy, a little bit more introverted. But I know that can be with just anyone as well. For school, most definitely, it requires them to have individual education plans, IEPs. They're definitely behind in some areas. There's different, although they're in general ed, they're able to maintain and stay current with their, I guess, current in grade level with these IEP plans, the individual education plans. But they do require extra support to understand complex ideas and all that. But they're growing and they're evolving so beautifully. Reading, yes, it's much lower than grade level, but I don't care. I absolutely don't care. And I tell them, are you trying your best? Yes, I am. I said, that's all that matters to me. A grade is not going to identify who you are, how you are as an individual. A school system, this traditional school system, tends to label children based on grades. I'm over that. I'm so over that. Are you doing the best you can? Yes, I am. That's all that matters. If I even see that you're not, and you know that you're not, then don't be disappointed with your grade if you're not putting in the effort. But if you're putting in the effort and you have a C, I don't care. But if you're not and you have a C, then I'm just going to be like, imagine if you did put the effort, what it could be. And for school, yes, it requires that additional support. They're not into sports, into any sports. Their confidence, they do have anxiety, and it's pretty much a generalized anxiety that they were both diagnosed with at an early age. but it affects one more than the other. So, social events, social things at school, they shut down a little more. They get embarrassed if they don't make the team, therefore they don't want to try again. And they did physical therapies for half their life. And so just to strengthen their muscles because it was part of the 22q deletion syndrome, a lot of the muscle tone was very low, so it took years and years to build that up. So there's also a lot of things that they're not confident in doing. We try, but I'm not pushing. It's that fine balance, right? Especially at this age, they're teenagers. I'm not going to force you to do something you don't want to do. And then you do it. And then something goes wrong, or people say things, or students at this age are not always super kind or anything. And then have a negative effect. I'm like, you know what? I never played sports. They're going to find their thing and we're going to go with it. So they're just subtle things. But yeah, to the regular person, then you don't notice it. You don't really know. You just think they're shy. But then if I add one other thing, and I don't know, you talked a little bit about astrology, a little bit of different modalities and stuff. Like I've really been diving into human design, and I don't know if that's something that you're into or not.
Yeah.
Me, when I started looking into human design, that just opened up a whole other world in me understanding my children. And it's, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. I use human design in trying to even understand how to parent them, which that's a whole other topic for another day. But it all comes together. The more you know yourself, the more you understand who you are, and then in turn, try to understand your children, it only makes a funner, more exciting life.
Yeah. I love that the way that you approach that because I'm not somebody that likes the traditional school system. I wasn't raised in it, and I think that people do put categories on children based off of a lot of things that aren't necessary or that don't really tell you how intelligent you are. And I love that you're encouraging it to the point of, did you do your best? Because I think that that's what really matters is how are we trying? It's like what individuals people need or individual children need to succeed, and it doesn't look the same for everybody. But if I know that you had mentioned it's an invisible disability, people walking on the street probably wouldn't know. What is something that you wish people would understand, either about this diagnosis that your children have or any other special needs or disabilities? Is there something that you've learned along the way that you think is a really great piece of advice?
Yeah. And I think this is going to be more just general for humanity. Be kind to people. And whether my daughters have an invisible disability or your child or you as an individual you look perfectly fine but really suffer from anxiety, guess what? Anxiety is an invisible disability.
Mhm.
Be kind to people. If something's off a little, if they look a little awkward or they say something, like, don't make fun of them. You don't know their story for the most part. You don't know what people are going through. Don't be so quick to judge. Just be kind. Just love people. And I haven't had the experience where people have been rude or mean to my face or anything about my children, thankfully, but just in general, you don't know what people are going through. So be kind and don't be quick to judge. Instead, send them love.
Oh, I love that message. I think that's the most amazing advice because it really comes down to that when we are looking on a human level on regardless of what kind of topic really we're talking about, right? It's don't judge a book by its cover. You don't know what's going on inside somebody, and you don't know. Last month I did Pride awareness, and we talked about binary, non-binary, and one of the really big takeaways that I wanted people to understand is that it doesn't matter if you agree with something or if you have views on how certain societal things should be. It's respecting that person's. They don't have to agree with you. They don't need to see it your way. And it's not to say you need to change your point of view, but just respect somebody else's. And I think that's
what a lot of this comes down to is like having that respect. And I love that you mentioned that because when somebody is unkind, when somebody is judging, not showing up as their best, I would say 100% of the time, it's their own internal dramas, traumatic experiences, and they don't know how to maybe express that or understand that within themselves. So they take it out on other people and they judge situations. And the best thing that we can do is send love, send them clarity, send them healing from whatever it is that they're going through. So I think that's amazing. I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about how you practice self care and what that looks like when you're stressed or burnt out or in this uncertainty mindset.
Yeah. So that has shifted over time. I think initially, self care had a different meaning, more of, oh, let me just spend some time and just for me and meditate and do this and that. But over time, it became so much more. So for me, self care really starts with how aligned am I? And when I'm feeling that overwhelm, that's stress or anxiety, any of those feelings are a light bulb to me that says, hey, something's not aligned here. So when any of those feelings start to bubble up, it's pause and what's not aligned.
Mhm.
And I look at there's 5 different core areas of life, right? From relationships, career, money, love, spirituality, all those different things. So where am I out of alignment in these? Because depending the area that I'm out of alignment, it's going to be the one that I need to pay more attention to. And I have this beautiful alignment audit that I'll make sure to give you the link so you can share with your audience. Because when you go through that realignment audit, you're going to be able to see where am I at with this area of my life? And you go through those 5. Where am I? Where would I like to be? And the beautiful thing is that many times people think I'm off in my career. But when you sit down and look at it, you're like, oh, wow. No, I'm really off in my relationships or in my relationship with time. How
Mm.
am I using my time? So the one that really, where there's that bigger gap, that's where you have to focus on. And it's going to look different, right? That self care is going to look a little bit different depending on the area of life. And so for me, self care now is where am I? Where am I feeling misaligned when that starts to bubble up? What, how do I want to feel? And based on how I want to feel, that will then determine that self care. But in general, I've made a lot more time for me to sit in the bathtub. We've been in this house for years and years, and it wasn't probably till this year that I'll do a bubble bath a couple times a week. Maybe once, maybe twice, maybe I don't, but whenever I want. Because now I have that time freedom to do it. Making sure that I'm getting quiet. There is something so powerful in getting quiet. But we live in such a hustle culture that even the thought of sitting down to get quiet feels like a waste of time. So I'm not even going to waste my time in there because I don't have 5 minutes to spare because I'm just running. So when you're most of society, and I'm not going to put a statistic out there because I don't have it in front of me, but a majority of the society is walking around stressed with anxiety, feeling reaching depression, if not at depression, because that the mental health is one of our highest, that's the crisis right now. We're in this crisis. And so I love to tell people, let's pause and see where you're out of alignment so we can start working that area and start shifting your beliefs around that. Shift your beliefs around money, shift your beliefs around time, around relationships, your career, because that is inevitably going to lead to self care. You're going to start feeling better, or at least you're going to know, or you're going to begin to identify how you want to feel better. And that's the beautiful thing that I love working with people because that's where you go from misaligned to magnetic. And I'll just add, bringing it back to the topic of the month, as a parent, as a mother specifically, going through that journey of just parenting children with multiple needs and visible disabilities, that in itself, it's puts you so out of alignment sometimes. So I even encourage, if any of your listeners who are moms who want to connect with another mom, that has children with special needs or disabilities, I'm happy to connect with them, because there's just a different, I don't know, there's a different connection with moms that you can relate to with that, because so many times I know I felt like I did not belong. I didn't belong with the moms in the regular circle because their kids are all fine and I can't do all the activities. But then I didn't really feel like I belonged with this other group because my daughters were doing well, we're doing better. So it's like, what are you worried about? Like, what are you complaining about?
Mm.
You're in this space of, I don't know where I belong. And all of that bubbles up to the feelings, the misalignment. But when you're able to go down, like I said, and it's like, where am I feeling misaligned? Well, with myself. Like, I don't know who I am. I don't know anything about me anymore because I lost my identity in serving others, serving my family, serving the employees at work, serving everyone. And that's where it can just really highlight the area that you're thinking, oh, I'm so off in my career. No, honey, you're off in you. You're off with you. And every piece begins to affect the other. If you're not okay with yourself, that's going to show up at work. That's going to show up in your relationships. That's going to show up how you manage your time. And all of that can impact the money that flows in.
Right.
Let's figure out where you're out of alignment, because that's going to be the key to bringing you back to that peace of mind.
Yes.
All right, I
No.
went on a tangent there.
No, I love it. Thank you so much for gifting that to the listeners. I really appreciate that. I think that it is going to be a great tool to utilize, and definitely put that in the show notes. I'm glad that you brought awareness to, as a mother, kind of feeling maybe like you're not sure what space to be in. I think that there could be listeners out there that have a special needs kid. Maybe they're the only ones in the kindergarten or the college or whatever it is, and they could feel really in that space of not fitting in or feeling like people don't understand what they're going through. And so I like that you brought that up, because I think that is something that I wanted also to bring awareness that there's nobody that's really alone. You have your own individual experiences, but we all can connect in some way. And there are people out there that can support you and help you. And I appreciate you extending that invitation as well for people that maybe feel alone with what their child's going through. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So what or who has been the greatest source of support or mentorship through this period of your life?
Honestly, I'm going to say it's been my husband. It has been my husband, because as I've done investments to work on me, I will always share what I'm doing, but he doesn't question me. If that's what you desire to do, then go for it. He supports me, even though he doesn't know what he's really supporting me in. He supports me. But as he began to do the work, as he had his spiritual awakening, which was so profound, it's almost like he's become a coach to me. I don't know. It's just has evolved to something so beautiful, where it's like, not only did he go from supporting me as a spouse, it has now gone deeper than that, where if I'm trying to decipher something, I might just be like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is how I'm feeling. And then he just gives me these perspectives that it's okay. I hadn't thought about that. So he's gone from, he's got a lot of different roles in my life now, but he is my greatest supporter, because if it wouldn't have been for his support, I wouldn't be where I'm at today as an entrepreneur. Like I said, I was a breadwinner. I had the corporate job. He worked part-time the entire time so that we could care for our children the best way possible. And so I walked away from my corporate job as a breadwinner with my husband working part-time. And his words to me were, Criss, you're the one that's always worried about the money. It's all going to work out. Beautiful things started to shift after I left, and things are working out. They're always going to work out if you believe they're going to work out. So while it's not this big coach or guru, he is my biggest supporter, and I'm very grateful for having him in my life.
That's so beautiful. And I love that you have that person to be able to bounce those ideas off of. I know when I first started getting into coaching, I felt in this space where nobody really understood what I was saying. And it felt really lonely and isolating because I was like, I really want to talk about this stuff, but I feel like I don't have anybody to share it with. And
Yes,
I think that's beautiful that you had that and or have that now.
correct.
And yeah,
Because it
yeah.
didn't happen right away. It was several years before he joined. So that's what I tell people. To your point, you want to share because it's changed your life and you want other people to understand and to feel it, but not everybody's ready.
Yeah.
And I tell people, don't try to impose it on others because you're going to turn them off. They're going to turn them away. Just do it. Just be that person and show up for yourself. And then at some point, they're going to want some of that Kool-Aid that you're drinking.
Yeah.
Some of that. And they will. They will. It happens. Just don't force it. Let it come naturally. And when it does, it's just going to be power.
Ah, it's been such a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for coming on the July Special Needs and Disabilities portion of this podcast. Before we go, is there anything else that you feel like we didn't touch on that you really want the listeners to know?
I think what I want to share with the listeners is really just an invitation to a free live experience that I'm having July 15th and 16th. It's called Rise, A Journey Back to You. And it's going to be all about how you go back and reclaim your power, shutting down all the noise, all the external noise to be able to listen to you and come back to you. So it's more of an invitation to your listeners, and I look forward to having them there. It's a free online experience, and if they don't catch it live, there will always be a replay they can go back to, even when this has been published and in the books.
Awesome. I will definitely be attending that. So I hope to see some of the listeners there as well. So yeah, it's going to be awesome. And again, thank you so much. You're such a pleasure to talk to. You have so much light and you can see the love when you speak. And I absolutely adore that. Thanks again for being on this podcast. And I know that the people that are listening to this are going to have these amazing ahas within their life. So thank you, Criss, for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Felicia, for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review so that we can connect with more people to develop our mind, body, and spirit.